Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This is Courtney, the Marketing Coordinator here at AIM. Today's webinar will be recorded and later posted on our website. This does mean that all attendees will be automatically muted so that we can get a quality recording here today. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box and we'll try to answer them throughout the presentation. But if we're unable to get to all of them, we'll have a member of our marketing team reach out to you individually to get those answered for you. We do have webinars every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., so keep an eye on your email for the next invite or go ahead to our webinar section of our website and get signed up early. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Mike so that we can get started this morning. Go ahead and take it away, Mike.
Thanks, Courtney. As always, appreciate all the hard work you put in to make these things happen. And want to say good morning to everybody. Welcome. We know there's a lot of things going on out there that keep you busy. And as I said to some of the folks when we were doing our reminder calls yesterday, we appreciate you making the time available to join us, particularly on a topic like this, just simply because this is such a hot button right now. For a long time in the senior space, we knew that dental vision, dental DVH, that kind of thing was really something that people were Twitter-pated about because they didn't have it as part of that base health insurance, if you will. Well, as we've gotten farther into every day actually questioning agents and talking with agents and debriefing them and such, one of the things that we found out is a companion piece to that is some sort of opportunity to address concerns that they have with regard to long-term care, extended care, whatever you want to call it. They're concerned about it. They're seeing it in their families now, their parents, maybe an older brother, somebody like that, number one. Number two, they know that they personally have health issues that would probably be a concern in this space. So there's a lot of different things going on. But the good thing is that we've got opportunities here, lots of opportunities. And we're excited about this. We've seen a significant uptick in several states where we had access to one of our best products early in the AEP cycle. And we saw, a significant kick up, if you want to call it that, in those states where agents were paying attention and felt like they had the time and were willing to commit the time. It doesn't take very much more time, but they were willing to commit the time to doing what they felt was the right thing for their clients by initiating a conversation about this. So we've got that going on. And the other good thing, and we'll talk more about that here during the course of the day, is that we've got more carriers flocking to this market. They clearly understand the opportunity situation, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. And we got more coming in. We've got them expanding their involvement, if you want to call it that. An important thing to note, a lot of you have been with us through long-term care and the long-term care timelines and such. There is not an interstate compact for short-term care. And what that means is that these carriers literally have to go one state at a time or small groups of states at a time to get these products approved. So if it seems like it takes longer to do this than what you've seen in the past, particularly where a carrier brings out a new product in long-term care and bam, they've got 30 states available. That's happening because they're literally having to negotiate with Colorado one day and they're negotiating with Nevada the next day. So it's just not quite as seamless and as streamlined as what we've seen elsewhere. So it's important to note that there are places, states, that there is a likelihood that short-term care type products are never going to be approved. In some cases, it's as a result of actual legislation, rules, if you will. Washington is one of those states. In other states, I think New York is too. Well, they've got a different set of things that get in the way. All right. So, and then you just have the regulatory environment in other states. So as it stands right now, based on what we've seen over a long period of time, these are states that aren't going to have short-term care products available likely ever. for a variety of different reasons. It's really important to understand this is not a carrier situation, okay? It's more about the state, the regulatory footprint, in some cases, as I said, the laws that they have with regard to this and what it entails. To give you a great example, Washington, right here in our backyard, there's actually legislation on the books that defines short-term care as not lasting longer than 90 days. And carriers are simply not going to put the time and energy into an approval when they would only have the product on the books and available to help a client for a 90-day period of time. So those are the kinds of things that we deal with. The Eastern Seaboard is kind of a weird deal because there's not really anything formal. You just don't see anybody being willing to engage up there, but there are significant opportunities now, which we're going to show you here in a second, and we anticipate more opportunities coming on board, and we're thrilled to have that, and we're thrilled that Oregon, our neighbor to the south, is next up with one of our best products, and we anticipate agents in Oregon are going to have significant opportunity to take advantage of that. So this is where we're at now. These are states where we have something available. Okay, some of the ones you just saw a minute ago, we're never going to have something available. Okay, but there's a big chunk here that we do, and there are more coming. The likelihood is with the different carriers that we're going to talk about during the course of this overview, you're probably going to end up with somewhere between 35 and 38 states having something available that will help your client. And given, what we know about the environment, we're pleased to see that there. We're pleased that we're able to work to make these opportunities available, and we're pleased that we're able to give you something that's so valuable and such a great solution for your clients. So this is where we're at now. This is what we look like, what we think we're going to be at eventually. There will be some version of something in most of what it is here. Connecticut, that's a mistake on our part. I mapped that out incorrectly. We're not anticipating anything there. Connecticut and Massachusetts seem to move in lockstep, don't seem to have any real interest in this, okay? And so now, excuse me, just to kind of put a stop to questions, the reason that we included everybody in this invitation is that we are long ensconced in the internet age here, and we just don't have that many agents who don't have non-res licenses here, there, or somewhere. And as a result, we wanted to make sure that even if you have a dozen clients in an Oklahoma, for example, and you're in a different state like New Mexico, let's say, even if you have a dozen clients in Oklahoma, we want you to have the opportunity, because we know enough to know that those dozen clients are going to want to engage first, and second, they're going to be a great referral source for you. So wasn't an oversight on part. It was on our part actually intentional. We have a lot of Washington agents that work in Oregon, work in Idaho, work in Montana. So they were included. Same thing with California. A lot of crossover. Had an agent that I worked with a few weeks ago on the contracting specifically. I mean, knew specifically going forward that the move was being made because they had clients in Nevada and they spent part of the year in Nevada, and they wanted to be positioned to make the most of this opportunity. So, that's going to total about 38. That's a good cross section. That's plenty of opportunity for everybody involved to take advantage here. So, how did we get to this 2024 short-term care reality? And most of you who have been on webinars with me know that I'm not big into reading slides. I try to kind of give you the context, if you want to call it that, around these different things. Traditional long-term care, and there's never been a bigger advocate of traditional long-term care than American Independent Marketing over the years. Many of you that have been on webinars and talked to us understand that very clearly, but the simple truth is, and we'll look more at this in a second, that these long-term care pain points have really begun to intensify, and there's two parts to that. The second part that has really made this such a big need is that America is not a healthy country for a lot of different reasons. We have issues with obesity. We've got issues with diabetes. We've got issues with arthritis and other pieces, parts that make this, make the traditional long-term care pathway fraught with peril, let's just say. Okay, and so combine those two things with the fact that prospects, your prospects, whether they be clients or true prospects, they've never been more aware of the fact that they need this than they are right now. Okay, and again, that's because something's happened with neighbors, something's happened within their family. They've been to the doctor and they found out that they've got a diagnosis of some sort of condition that really scares them. There's kind of a running, I wouldn't call it a joke because it's not, but just a running story within the long-term care market. When agents get leads from people, the first question to the prospect is, are you calling on your way out of a doctor appointment, or are you calling on your way in to a doctor appointment? Okay, and so that's kind of the health piece of this, the increased awareness. So we need product, plain and simple. More importantly, we need a product that will address the underwriting piece, and we'll talk more about that. And along the way, we need to revise the story. We need to revise the conversation that we're having with clients. And we need to, and I've talked about this in some other webinars in the past, we need to be aware of what their story is, because their story and asking the right set of questions is going to make it really easy for our story to present itself as an affordable and medically relevant solution for these people going forward. So it's a different way to do it for sure. So just be aware, and we're here to coach you on that different way to do it. But the most important thing is just to let the clients tell you why it is that they're having a conversation with you. That'll set the framework for the next part of this. So long-term care pain points, more detailed if you want to call it that. And as noted here, we're dealing with it in a couple of different ways. All right. So from a new business standpoint, if you want to call it that, okay, traditional middle of the road long-term care, creeping up towards $600 a month for what I would categorize as a very middle of the road opportunity. It's not necessarily high end. It's going to be the kind of thing that gets the job done, but there's going to be some co-paying going on in most states. And again, this pricing that I'm showing you here. It ranges in the traditional marketplace from about 400 all the way up to almost 600, as you can see. And that's for a 60-year-old couple that's a select medical risk. And you can see it's $5,000 a month, pool of 180 with inflation. And did a webinar a couple, 3 weeks ago talking about how things like inflation and other pieces of the long-term care framework from before that were considered staples such as day one home care and shared care. Those things are going overboard. They're going overboard because it's the only way that we can actually get this to a price point where people are comfortable with it. And the second part is that enforced price increases are not a secret. They've been going on, but they're beginning to dominate the conversation because there are bigger numbers than ever with that. And it is something that does create a second level of concern with it. Is even if we can afford it now, are we going to be able to afford it later? All right. So with all of that, we need a solution. And this is the medical piece, because now short-term care offers an underwriting play, if you want to call it that. Long-term care decline rates are high. They're in the 30%. In addition to that, and this is a number that we really don't have a good handle on, simply because a lot of people don't even ask. All right, but there are more people now than ever that aren't even trying to get some kind of coverage. Okay, but now that underwriting play in a lot of places makes a home care solution, stay at home, where we know from time immemorial that people want to be, they want to stay. Okay, Well, that's available with as few, and we'll look more in depth at this in a little bit, as few as 3 underwriting questions. Okay, so significant opportunity on that piece, and that's the one that tends to slow folks down. Then you get to a point where you can talk to them about the fact that you can put together a max plan with carrier X or carrier Q within the framework of their health situation. You can do that, and you can do it for less than $100 a month for that particular individual. That really starts to resonate. All right. So in the last couple of years, we've had carriers joining the market in droves, what I call the long form group, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. Manhattan Life, Wellaby, Medico, and Heartland have all come out within the last year-ish or so with their long form policies. Okay, and what I mean by long form policies is they offer home care, and then they've got riders for facility, but they don't have the advantageous kind of wave them through underwriting relief that is making this resonate quite so much. Along the way, with these long form products coming in, Guaranteed Trust Life came in with a refurbed version of their long running Recover Care product, and then they also took and enhanced their short-term care offering, and that's the one that seems to really have snapped some heads around. Okay, in addition to more carriers coming in, we've seen product design that's starting to look a lot more like what we saw and what we see in the long-term care market. There are carriers that are offering inflation options. Okay, these long form products, as I call them, they've got facility riders. So you have the ability to get home care and assisted living care and nursing home care, depending on which riders you purchase. Many of them have cash as a built-in piece of the puzzle, which brings informal care into this short-term care lineup. Many of them have restoration of benefit, which is significant, particularly when you've got younger clients and the initial utilization of the product happens as a result of an accident or what I would call a medical injury, such as a stroke or a heart attack, where they're able to recover, get back to day-to-day life, the benefits restore for them. And a lot of them have the opportunity, and this is fading away in the traditional long-term care market, but they've got the opportunity with access to 0-day deductible on that facility coverage. And so you're able to put together a product, an offering for your clients that's going to be in the affordability range for them, and it makes available that traditional progression of care to where they start at home. And when it reaches a point where home care is not realistic anymore, then they move forward and they move into assisted living. And when it reaches a point in time when assisted living is not going to work, then they're able to do that in a facility situation. And because so many of these are not calendar day products, they're service day products, it doesn't all take place within a 2-year span on the calendar. It can last a longer period of time, but the total amount of paid benefits is 2 years or less. Okay, so now, and this is not intended to be everything. This is what we've got and some stuff that we are also aware of. There are probably some other carriers out there that have these products, and we didn't make an attempt to go scour the entire landscape because we don't have the entire landscape. The carriers listed here, with the exception of Standard and Bankers, we've already got. Okay, and more are anticipated to come online. Aetna's got 2 different pieces, Medico's got 3, Heartland's got 3, and GTL has 3. So there's plenty of variety, there's plenty of problem solving ability for you. Plenty of problem solving ability for you within the scope of this, but the best part of all, knowing that you have people that come to you and they have questions and they've also got significant health concerns. The best part of all is we've got carriers where the underwriting checklist, if you want to call it that, is as simple as what you see right here. And I can't make this any bigger than what it is. Typically, what they're asking is, number one, are you on claim? Are you in a facility using a wheelchair, assistive devices, etc.? Are you dealing with HIV? And then in this particular case, are you having cardiac issues? Are you having cancer issues? Been hospitalized? Anything else pending out there? And then amputation by disease. This is off of Aetna's home care product. So you got some pretty good room here, some room to move, some ability to handle a lot of people that you couldn't typically handle before. And then we have this one here, and this seems to be the showstopper, this next one that I'm going to bring to you. Okay, this one's the showstopper simply because it's got one medical question. We'll look at this in a second. Again, asks if you're on claim. Are you in a nursing home or assisted living facility or receiving home care? Are you ADL deficient? If the answers to those two questions are no, and you don't have it, your prospect does not have an active diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, dementia, or memory loss, and they're not anticipating being hospitalized or being in a care situation in the next 60 days, and this is what I tell agents all the time, one medical question, okay? One. And if they don't have that active diagnosis of Alzheimer's, dementia, or memory loss, they're going to whistle through. And this product has, for its max benefit, the combined premium for a 65-year-old couple is $151 a month. That's a combined premium for each of them having the max configuration. We'll tell you more about that when we make the follow-up calls. If you're not familiar, if you haven't seen some of the other material, we'll be able to have that conversation with you when the marketing team makes the follow-up calls. We've got quite a few folks here, so it's going to take us the better part of the second half of the day to make it through, but we know these are going to be worthwhile. But I'm not sure, short of not asking anything, that you can set up a client, and we're going to look at some examples here in a second. Okay, I'm not sure that you can set up a client any better to be able to get coverage than this group of questions here. Aetna does a pretty good job. This does a great job. Now, here's some things to look at, okay? Health problems that we are able to address, all right? Now, family history issues. What I'm talking about here is a number of the long-term care matrices for underwriting include questions with regard to family history and restrictions accordingly, okay? What we don't have here is that, okay? Here are some things that we hear about on a regular basis that would be able to get this coverage, okay? I know personally, because I assisted on the case, that we had somebody who was HIV positive who picked up a policy at the end of January, okay? Significant. And now these are showstoppers, okay? Let's be honest about that. These really are showstoppers. There's a lot of things going on out there that aren't showstoppers, but still will prevent a client from getting this coverage. Atrial fib and the corresponding pieces with that is one of them. Another one is factor V, which is basically, the best way that I can explain it simply, is really thick blood, okay? Corresponding with factor V, and this is not the kind of thing that you hear, at a neighborhood barbecue. Oh my goodness, did you hear about Don? He was diagnosed with X or Q or whatever. But another one very similar, it's kind of the exact opposite of factor V, and that's thrombocytopenia. And that's basically thin blood. Your blood does not clot well. You get cut or you suffer some sort of a bleeding injury, and it takes a long, long, long period of time to be able to get that stop. The carriers have a lot of concerns about those types of things, and they don't have much interest in helping folks out with traditional long-term care. But again, in this particular arena, you are able to make this available to your client and help them out in a way that's affordable, and it takes this great concern that they've got off the table. Okay, but as we go along, keep in mind that where you're going to end up with this, and the agents are kind of picky and looking down their nose, et cetera, where you're going to end up with this is what I call the 85-15 paradigm. Okay, and what I mean by that, or as I noted here, the poet Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want. Okay, and the 85-15 paradigm, when you boil it down, is it just basically anytime you're looking at an opportunity, and we're going to talk more about the opportunity assessment here in a minute, when you're looking at an opportunity like this, there's nothing that's perfect. Okay, and so you got to get your head around the fact that there are going to be some things that maybe you don't think is great, maybe your client doesn't think is great, but it really comes down to that 80, the 85% that does do what they need to do. There are multiple different ways in a lot of the cases to address these different things. So it comes down to which 15% your clients can live without most comfortably. And that happens regardless of what it is that we're dealing with in the senior space, whether it be supplements, whether it be Advantage, whether it be dental, any of these kinds of things. So a good thing to do going forward is just to kind of frame your conversations around this with an understanding that you're not going to get everything. Okay, just plain and simple. So, opportunity assessment. Okay, what do you got with this? What is your opportunity? Who are you looking at? Who are you talking to? Well, any clients with underwriting or cost concerns. Okay, and we'll talk more about different ways. I don't want to say to take advantage or to capitalize, but to help more people within that underwriting thing in particular. A lot of folks have concerns about the cost. When you're talking about younger folks who are healthy, they do have concerns about the cost, and you're able to, with the long form products, address that. You got a much greater degree of flexibility here than you do with long-term care in terms of your ability to take care of people. It does start with the same core premise that long-term care has started with over the years, and that is that people want to stay at home. And maybe the biggest part of this whole opportunity assessment thing is this high level of awareness. Okay, it's higher than we've ever had it before. We were helped a lot in the state of Washington by the payroll tax situation that took place. Hard to believe, but it was 3 years ago. Okay, and we're getting a lot of uptick and push in other states. California's got this on the stovetop somewhere. I'm not sure if it's on the front burner or the back burner right now, but I know that there are a lot of conversations taking place there. And my understanding, the last time we looked, is that there are 20 states. That's 40% of the country, folks. There are 20 states that are contemplating some variation of this payroll tax. And I know somebody is going to pipe up and say, well, geez, this isn't going to help these people not have to pay the payroll tax. Well, you're right. It's probably not, because this does not meet the definition of long-term care. But would you rather have somebody actually have meaningful coverage than some sort of not particularly meaningful and not particularly well constructed state plan and have this as well? Because you're not going to get them out from underneath, based on their health situation. You're not going to get them out from underneath the state plan. But what you do here is you make sure they've got something meaningful that enables them to not have to have the retirement planning and such. And we really haven't touched on it, but it does fit in here. Okay, it doesn't put them in a position where that is going to be looted and pillaged. You don't want to have that. Okay, so big degree of awareness. You got to capitalize on that. Where do we go next? Okay, well, number one, you're going to need to get contracted. Okay, we still have agents that seem to want to get as much free stuff from us as they can. And at that point in time, then they want to disappear. You can't do that. It is a compliance situation, even if CE and such aren't involved. The carriers want to know who it is that they've got out there running around representing their products. Okay, so now, once we get that taken care of, who are you going to talk to? Well, my response to that is, who do you know? sit down and make a list. Sit down with your spouse or partner. Maybe sit down with a business partner. Talk about people that you know and what it is that you know about them. Okay. A lot of agents balk at the idea of talking to friends and neighbors. But I'll tell you today what I've said in many other webinars along the way, which is that those people, your neighbors, your friends, people maybe that you play golf with or play tennis or play cards, whatever it is, okay? Uh, they know who you are and they know what you do. They're actually more surprised that you're not asking them about this than they would be and will be when you do. Okay, so look up, look outside. All right, talk to people. Hey, I just, I just came up upon an opportunity here. We'll circle back to the other piece of this in a second that I'd really like to talk with you and Carol about. Can we get together Tuesday night at 6 o'clock? We can do a Zoom call, so I won't disturb what's going on at the house. Should take about 20 minutes. Okay. But the first thing you want to do with this from a credibility standpoint, to be honest with you, because I know the great majority of you don't have anything, is get this for yourself. Okay. If it's available in your state, get it for yourself because nothing strikes that chord with a client or a prospect is when you hold your policy up and you say, you know what, as soon as I had access to this, Barbara and I jumped on that, or David and I jumped on this. If female agent, we jumped on it because we knew it was something that we needed to address, and we liked the affordability. And David had a medical condition that I'm not really going to share with you, but it really made this the most obvious choice for us in terms of being able to take care of this particular situation. The last piece of this, we haven't really pointed for folks toward this, but I would encourage you to at least inquire, is there are a lot of community resources out there, uh, whether they be in your city or your region, your part of your state, whatever it is, and that's there are resources for, and these are just the different things that we looked at previously: arthritis, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, cardiac issues, cancer, all these types of things that get people dismissed outright from the traditional products can be addressed here. They're not qualifying questions. Well, those folks quite likely have reached out to these different community resources trying to find out if there are opportunities available for them. And if you're the first one to start working with these folks, you're going to be well positioned. And be willing to give of yourself and give of your time. Don't just reach out to them and then expect them to continually send people your way. Volunteer. If they have, um, you know, some sort of a fundraising piece for what it is that they do, volunteer your time for that. Volunteer to do different kinds of things that help them because you'll more. No, number one, it's a great feeling inside. Number two, not only are you going to benefit from a standpoint of helping other people and generating more revenue from your agency, but you're going to meet new people. You're going to develop friendships, and you're going to come away from this. And I want to close with this piece. You're going to come away from this with an understanding of the value of just plain helping people. I've got an agent that I work with, not on this call today, and I had multiple conversations with this agent, and they actually live in one of the states that doesn't have these products available. But I had multiple state conversations with this agent about these products and the fact that they had clients in the states where they were available, and the agent decided for their own reason to begin reaching out to these people that they had had underwriting difficulty with in the past. And it wasn't about revenue, it was about helping more people. And I talk to this agent literally 1 or 2 times a week. Sometimes it's general chit chat, talking about somebody that's got some mutual interests, some shared interests with me that are not necessarily insurance based. So sometimes the conversations are about that. Often as not, it's about the most recent success story that they've had and how they reached out to somebody and they were able to get them taken care of and make certain that they weren't sitting there completely exposed to the damage that these types of expenses can do to 401ks and 403bs and all these kinds of things. So there are a lot of different ways that you can benefit from this, financially for sure, but also just in terms of new friendships, new people in your circle, and the knowledge that you've actually helped somebody who seriously was worried about how they were going to address a concern that their spouse had health-wise or anything like that. So, all right, that is it. We're at 35 minutes after the hour. As we always do, I'm going to open up for questions. I'm going to ask everybody on the call that if you don't intend to answer or to ask a question, to please keep yourself muted so that the quality of the recording will continue and that we don't get dogs barking at the Amazon delivery guy. Oh, that's probably at my house. Or tea kettles whistling, people talking on a cell phone while they're on this call, on a landline phone, whatever it is. We don't have those interruptions, okay? And it's going to tell me here, and I know that a lot of people are already self-muted. We do appreciate that. Just makes it easier. But if you do have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask. Again, we have been recording this. Courtney will process that recording, which takes a little bit of time, and then go through the steps necessary to get it posted on our website. We can get that link to you if you have access to our website, and we can take care of that simply as part of the follow-up call that we'll be making to you later on today with regard to this. So, okay, Courtney, tell me again, what's our next webinar next week? I know it's not mine, so we're going to be taking a look at Aetna's recovery care next week. So kind of a different piece of this, but it's not the landscape piece. It's product specific. We're going to be delving into some of the other product specific pieces over the next few weeks. So pay attention to that. And it looks like we don't have anybody with questions. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and give you all some time back in your hour. We do appreciate you making time available. We know everybody's busy, a lot of things going on. We'll get this processed. We'll get it loaded up to our website, and we'll be talking to you later today. Thanks, everybody.